Hello, welcome to another video on the Scouring Early Access. Today's match is going to be a 3 versus 3 match with me, the Dwarven Gamer, and my allies, Assess and Stebashemi6. On the enemy team is going to be Orc Slayer, Ninja Code, and Part Timer. And this is going to be a match on the new update where the dwarves were moved to tier 1, and of course all the build orders got messed up. And so now this is the new build order, just similar to the warrior build where you do 2 on barracks and then make 2 farms, but there's kind of very few trees here. So instead I did a variation build where you take 3 workers and make a logging camp, and then 2 on barracks, and then try to get some wood to make a few farms, instead of making your logging camp later into the match. And of course I am playing as the Black Orc. Next to me, my white human ally, Stebashemi6. Looks like he's doing a barracks and a sawmill. I guess he prioritized mining some gold first. My final ally, Orange Orc, Assess. Looks like he did a similar thing to me, but I think he built his buildings a little faster. Anyways, over here across the map, you can see the tier 1 dwarf build order, where you make a logging camp with 3 workers, make a smithy with 1 or 2 workers, and then try to squeeze out a Dwarven tavern. Similar thing that a sign player did, but I guess he did it a little more efficiently. He has already a dwarf out, while the red player is only producing 1. And over here, the blue player also did a similar dwarf build, but he did it the lowest out of all 3 of these players. And of course, the blue human is the Orc Slayer player. And the signed human is the Part Timer. And red, of course, is the Ninja Code playing as humans. And pretty much, dwarves can be auto difficult to take out, which is why they got auto nerf on tier 1. So you can kind of fight them. But you don't need a barracks to get a tier 2. Which just incentivizes even more dwarf production, because you only need a smithy to get a tier 2. When you get a tier 2, you can get the damage upgrade for the dwarves, which puts back their stats to the previous version. But in this version, their melee damage was auto increased from the old stats that they had. You can see over here, Cyan player already has 5 dwarves. And at this time I already have around, I guess, roughly 10 warriors. So you do get slightly less units in the beginning of the game if you do auto dwarves, which of course the only counter to them is pretty much just spamming out all the warriors. And of course they get auto buff as well. Now they cost only 80 gold instead of 100, so they're auto cheaper. And basically every 5 warriors you get a extra warrior because of that little 20 less gold. And over here, my orange ally, also playing Orc, is also doing mass warriors. And we kind of assumed that the enemy was going to be doing auto dwarves, because that's most, I guess, prevalent, most common build order if someone chooses to play human. So here I'm making a second barracks. My expansion's finished up, so I'm gonna be a capable of producing a lot of warriors. Of course, now it's nighttime, and the what do you call them? The goblins begin spawning. But of course, my wave spawned over here in my allies' base, so I try to help them out. Over here, it's going to be a little funny, is that on the enemy team, all 3 waves spawned in one little lane here. And so the Scion player is going to have to deal with 3 waves at one time. But I guess the red player is going to be helping him out. So in the meantime, blues are oblivious to this. Doesn't even send any help. It's sort of funny. But the Dwarven players were able to take care of this eventually. Oh, and of course, I guess the white players, goblins, came into my base, as well as the oranges wave. But we just have too many warriors, so these goblins can't really do anything. So at this point, I have a tier 2. Making some potion crates, getting a forge. Because by the end of the first night, people usually have a tier 2. Which is what the Scion player is trying to do. That way you can get the upgraded dwarf damage. But of course, I'm getting a tier 2 so I can get the shields. And this way my warriors have a chance to fight back against a huge army of dwarves. It looks like over here, the 2 dwarf players thinking I'm doing an attack. Pretty much by the end of the first night. But of course we are feeding their dwarves with highly caloric food or potions. And so they're going to be taking a long time to die. And here of course I'm still producing warriors. Getting a charge ability so I can get into the position a little faster. And getting a shield so the dwarves are going to be forced to go into shield mode as well. Or they're going to be cut down by my warriors. Looks like white is making a lot of archers. There's a good amount of swordsmen. It's making an expansion. And here of course I saw that the huge army of dwarves is going to be killing my ally soon enough. So I did try to tell my other ally to try and go down to try and help out. You can see I don't really have that many levels on my warriors, but neither do the enemies. You only have a few level 2s. So here the battle begins. But of course my orange ally only got the charge. And so he's going to be dying to the crossbows of the enemy. You can see here, because we surrounded the red dwarves, we can't really use their crossbow because they're going to get cut down too easily, just like these Scion dwarves. But of course, to explain the dwarves a little bit, they're kind of like a double-edged sword because they take forever to die, but that means that all of my warriors are going to take forever to kill them. So by the time the dwarves die, all my warriors are going to be level 3. Which of course is a small advantage, because dwarves do take longer to level up compared to warriors. That way, we can work on farming these dwarves for a lot of XP. We're going to be taking out this little group. And then the Scion player decided to retreat. Here my white ally came to assist us in fighting these dwarves. But of course the enemy blue player did come to assist his cyan ally. But of course my orange ally is going to be the one losing most of his units, as well as white, because they don't have the shield ability. It can be useful to distract all these dwarves and to just slaughter them. You can see here, even these level 3 dwarves, when they're fully surrounded, they're not going to be surviving for long. And at this point, it's kind of too annoying to try and fight the blue player, because they're just mostly my units here. Over here, the cyan player did go to potion crate, and then we did manage to destroy it and steal all those potions, which was pretty nice. But here I saw orange didn't really have a shield ability, so I decided to tell him to go back instead of trying to feed the blue player. So there you have it. Orange lost a good amount of units, so did white. But red did lose all of his dwarves. And cyan lost roughly half. While blue lost maybe 1 or 2. But as we can see here, roughly maybe 50% of my warriors are level 3. Because they did take forever to kill those dwarves. Which of course gives them a whole lot more health. Just gonna make it very difficult for the dwarves to take out all these high health units. And of course, after surviving this huge wave of dwarves, we just decided to chill here. Started to make a few munchers, getting in tier 3. I was trying to maybe get the rage ability, which would help my munchers, and of course my warriors, to fight back against the dwarves even more effectively. Over here I saw these dwarves, and my army was a little out of position, so I didn't feel like feeding all of these units to the enemy, so I just decided to sacrifice my bastion. Looks like the orange player is going to be thinking of flanking the enemies, but he kind of showed his army a little too early, because I wanted the enemies to go deeper into my base, and then my 2 allies would go from behind. But we were kind of forced to fight him here and now, because the orange player decided to attack him at this point. So there we have it. The white player is going to be here as well. Pretty much all the dwarves. Now I'm sending my huge army to fight as well. You can see here the big fat dwarves are not going to be surrounded. They're going to be stuck here. You can see here most of the dwarves are fighting with their axes. And of course, there are more warriors, and so they are going to be losing eventually to our warrior spam. But here, Cyan sent some reinforcements, which of course annihilates all of the dwarves of the white player. You see, he gets surrounded. And at this time, I can finally get the rage for my warriors, another units. And with rage, the warriors are just gonna be cutting through the high armor value of the dwarves. And over here, blue decided to stand and fight instead of trying to run like red or cyan. So eventually, his dwarves are going to fall. But of course not before taking forever to die. At this point, most of my allies have fallen. Most of orange and most of the white players' army. But we can see here, I didn't really lose any warriors, maybe like a few. I have all the munchers. Here the sign player decides to check what's over here. But of course he has fat dwarves. And that means he can't really run away from this army. And so pretty much he gets surrounded and slaughtered. Even the blue player tried to help his allies. And over here, even my orange ally has all the munchers, but he doesn't have a tier 3, so it's not going to be having rage anytime soon. Over here, the blue player decides to lose all of his dwarves, but of course a goblin wave is here to surround him as well. And at this point, we just managed to destroy a whole army of cyan player and pretty much the rest of what the blue player had. So blue just has all the cannons now, a few dwarves. We saw red actually did the right decision and ran away. So he has a good army left. Now cyan, as we can see, has only a few dwarves. And of course, this time, because the enemies went for a dwarf rush, we didn't get a second base. Unlike blue, who stayed back, get a second base. But I guess he just decided to hold his ground at his expansion. Now here, the white player even has all the dwarves. At this time, we just decide to focus one of the players. I didn't really know who was in this corner, but we did know that blue was on top here because of his dwarves. And of course, because we did kill most of his army, so killing the player on the bottom here would be a better idea because he has a bigger army. So I'd begin attacking, destroying their production, and just beginning to slaughter their units. But of course over here, the dwarves decided to make their final stand. And over here, this is a little tactic where you can click a dwarf in the back, and all your charging warriors are going to run through the dwarves even more effectively than the munchers. So at this point, combination of rage and his pure numbers, the dwarves didn't really stand a chance. So there you have it. The red player surrenders because he's pretty much dead. And the cyan player loses his final dwarf, so he surrenders. And at this point, the blue player makes his final stand. But of course he does surrender as well. Let's see the results. You can see here, we managed to mine a bit more, even after surviving that huge army of dwarfs that was coming to destroy the orange player. Here you see, managed to get all the kills, because I did have the shield ability, which allowed my warriors to stay alive long enough for them to level up very fast and to take care of the dwarves. So even though the dwarves are basically able to produce them on tier 1, they're still not too overpowered, because you can just beat them with a horde of warriors. Anyways, if you liked the video, you can leave a like, leave a comment. If you want to see more videos on the Scouring Early Access, then you can subscribe. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.